The subject is EmComm training using Winlink weekly drills, and it'll be co-presented by the director of the ETO organization, Bruce Powell, Kilo 7 Zulu Papa Juliet, and myself, Wayne, Kilo 4 Whiskey Kilo. I was one of the people that was one of the original organizers. So we'll give you a little bit of a history lesson here. So how this got started is back in 2019, I had joined Red Cross. I've been a Red Crosser for about a year at that point, and decided that we wanted to do some just kind of some routine VHF type drills around the Atlanta metro area, just to see how far we could reach from the Red Cross headquarters that's in Midtown Atlanta to the far-flung suburbs. And just nothing special, just the sort of thing that probably all of us have done many times. Fairly routine, as I say, down here at the bottom. And then I had a few friends, ham radio friends that were Red Crossers down in Florida, a couple folks in Cincinnati area, and some people in New York that said they wanted to join in too. So the second or third time we did this, we had, interstate drill. Now, of course, this wasn't on VHF anymore. Now we were sending some documents over Winlink, over HF or Telnet, whatever people had available. And got me to thinking, well, gee, that was kind of fun, and we went hundreds and hundreds of miles with our messages. Why not think big? And so I did. And within Red Cross, there's a number of chat rooms on something called Yammer. I don't know, I'd never heard of Yammer before, but Alan Slutsky, who's on the call, told me about it. So I joined the Red Cross ham radio Yammer. There's a Yammer on, must be 100 different topics within Red Cross. And you can see from the date there, December of 2019, I was floating the idea of let's have a national drill next spring, give myself plenty of time to plan it. And you can see my first sentence there. I'm so excited. I had 30 people. Because I thought it'd just be half a dozen of us. I had 30 people that were interested so far. And of course, you can see by the bullet on the bottom of the page there, that became the understatement of the year, because the 30 quickly became hundreds, and by the time we actually had the drill, there was 1,000 people. And I was just flabbergasted, myself and other people that were on the steering committee. So our planning began in earnest in February, and on our first call we had 12 people. And then that grew to over 100, and then we opened up the participation to non-Red Cross hams. So all kinds of Aries people and other unaffiliated people joined in, and things really took off. So by spring of 2020, we had over 1,000 participants in 40 states. And remember, this is the first one we did. It's like, holy crow, I've really got a tiger by the tail here. And we were passing a Red Cross traffic, something called a Form 6409, which is a real routine Red Cross shelter type document that shelter managers use constantly, and sending it over long distances. As you know, of course, I don't have to tell you this, but we were able to send this over long distances without internet. So that went so well, we were foolish enough to say, well, let's do this again in November. And so we did, and this time it grew by another 50%. And we had 47 states plus Puerto Rico. And I see a couple of Puerto Rican folks on the call tonight, and Canadians, and Venezuela as well, all digital, passing ARC 213s, which is pretty similar to the ICS 13 that we all know and love. Started doing this every 6 months, so we had a drill in the spring of 21. And what initially started out as Wayne keeping people's names, addresses, and email addresses and call signs on a spreadsheet, after we got over 1,000 or so, that was getting mighty cumbersome. And any of you that work with spreadsheets know that it's not that great a database. So that's when Bruce came on the scene. Bruce was already on the scene, but that's when Bruce came to the forefront and established a groups IO for us that had 1,600 names on it right out of the box, and a website. And then the success of that drill got our brothers and sisters in Canada inspired to do a drill of their own and called RC Smile. A little bit of evolution, and then I'm going to let Bruce talk. Here's some of the things that we learned And the first thing that we learned when I thought I was excited to have 30 people, and instead we had over 1,000, is that there is a huge amount of pent-up demand by amateur radio operators all over the place for emergency communications, drilling, training, opportunities like that. Huge amount of demand that I don't think anybody, I certainly didn't know was out there. Another thing that we found out in working, remember this began as a Red Cross operation, as a grassroots Red Cross, not sanctioned by headquarters, but just grassroots people. I started it in Georgia. And as we grew nationally, we found out that some Red Cross chapters have had negative interactions with amateur radio operators in the past. People showing up at a shelter with nothing but an HT and saying, well, here I am. And sometimes with an attitude like, well, here I am, and I'm here to solve all your problems. And so that didn't go down too well with some shelter managers. And in other places, of course, Red Cross chapters had a great experience with amateur radio. But what we learned was a great variety from, it was the good, the bad, and the ugly. We also learned that there are very wide variances, and I'm sure Steve Waterman can speak to this, or is aware of this, is that we ranged from rookies who had never gotten on Winlink before and weren't even quite sure how to spell it, to some very sophisticated and advanced skilled Winlink operators. So we had a large spectrum of people to try to keep engaged and keep happy. And we also realized that if we're going to have nationwide drills 6 months apart, we need to do something in between to keep everybody engaged, everybody, involved and participating. And also during this period, I'm going to talk about this, we changed our status from being associated with Red Cross to being independent and unaffiliated as we are today. So back in February 21, this was a really nice article, and some of our Venezuelan friends were featured in it photographically about what we've been doing in partnerships between with Red Cross and the U.S. Geological Survey. And I don't know for sure if this was spotted by some people at National Red Cross and headquarters in Washington. Probably it was, because it's a significant it's a significant journal, the leading journal. But the NHQ, which is shorthand for National Headquarters, felt that we were using the Red Cross name and logos without official approval, and asked us to cease identifying ourselves with Red Cross. And they were correct. We were using it, I guess, without official approval. I wasn't quite sure where things were going, but we promptly did so. And we've continued to this day now as an independent and unaffiliated operation. And we've continued very, very well indeed. Our growth and success, thanks to leaders like Bruce, have continued without let up. We now have 2,600 people on our group's IO list and 650 people a week taking part in our Winlink Thursdays. So it's become, quite a big deal. And I think, Bruce, is this the slide where you take over? Bruce and I have only rehearsed once, so pardon us.
No, this one's still yours.
Okay, still mine. All right, I'll keep talking. I'll talk all
night.
Yeah. Don't worry about me. Okay, so to keep people engaged between the national drills and to raise the bars and skills, because we wanted to start, get everybody to kind of come up, of course, some people are already up here. We're trying to get everybody to come up to a level of competence and accuracy. That we developed the Winlink Thursdays, and we started, Winlink Wednesday has more alliteration to it, but there's already, as you know, probably, I know of half a dozen, there's probably dozens of Winlink Wednesdays. So we made ours on Thursday just to be different. And also one of our good friends here in Atlanta developed a set of Winlink proficiency standards that we decided we would subscribe to, again, try to raise the skill level of all our participants. So.
And now it's my turn, Wayne.
Now it's Bruce. Okay. Thank you, Bruce.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to speak here today. Once we were, gone through a couple of the national exercises, and I'd set up groups IO, we started getting lots and lots of email saying that you need to do something more. We want it weekly, we want it monthly, we want lots more exercises. And that meant, we had to figure out, how we're going to do that and what we wanted to get out of it. And we already started tracking a large number of people. And that was a really good thing. But when we looked at the results of what they were doing, we weren't that sure that they were doing all that well. And so, and after a lot of discussion and thought, we want the number of people, but we want the use of Winlink to be accurate. We want it to be able to produce a dependable result when you're using it in an emergency situation. And we also realized that since we had this whole range of people, from somebody who just learned how to install Winlink, kind of, to people that might be able to, create their own templates, rewrite the program, and we want to raise the people at the bottom to where, to as high as they can go, and to be able to make them more useful if they do get to deploy to an emergency, that they have the skill set to do so. And long range, and this is still something that we keep an eye out on, is, we're doing Winlink Thursdays. It's mainly Winlink. Are there other things that's not Winlink that we might want to do in the future? Winlink Thursdays started in September 2020, and I believe our first intention was to have it become a monthly thing. And our first one was started out with a little under 200 participants, and somehow it took on a life of its own, and it became weekly, and we have around an average of 650 people a month. It goes up or down depending on what the topic is, of what we're doing. And in 2022, we now know that we had 1,625 unique call signs operators participating this year, and that number is still climbing. Wayne, next slide.
There you are.
Okay, as this thing started growing, we realized that, and from input from the participants, that we were operating in a level that we got used to, that started trending towards the higher end, and yet we had the beginners that we needed to keep, to bring them up to where they can get to the middle and get to the more advanced stage. And we do that by, like, every quarter, kind of doing a reset on the exercises, start with the easy ones and build up to harder and harder ones. And then we do that a couple of times, and then have the national drill. To be able to understand how we were doing and how the participants were doing, we got a individual that's really good at coding, and has allowed us to implement grading and mapping, so we can understand how accurate the participants' messages are, and to be able to put them on a map so they can see as a result that they were on the map. The one thing that we've learned is that when you do an exercise the first time, the numbers aren't all that great. When Winlink Thursdays, the correct numbers were under half. But we practice and practice, in exercises that have been done before, we're in the high 90s. And we're also noticing that the new exercises that we haven't done before, new forms, people are actually, mid 80s average. So that means the knowledge from the previous exercises is something different. They're actually learned and being able to apply that learning to new situations, which is great. And again, because we're doing the mapping and the grading, we've also increased our use of forms that have mapping or geolocation built into it. And also in the desire to make the skill level higher, we've also started exercises, and now they're quarterly, doing peer-to-peer Winlink messages. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a few slides, but the really hard part about it, and I want to thank Lynn for developing it, is how to do something, an exercise that's between two people, and how that make that work on a national scale. And I think with Lynn's design and the practice, I think we've got that down pretty good. And now, Winlink Thursdays, the way we approach them now is that's the weekly training, and the national drills that used to be our central focus is just the final exams, trying to show how well people did by learning the skills and Winlink Thursdays, and then being able to show that off in the national drills. And Wayne, next slide, please.
Here you are.
And you're probably wondering what in the heck we're doing in the Winlink Thursday drills, and how we figure out what we're going to do. And instead of looking at forms and saying, well, it'd be great that they could do this forms, we try to look at what does a Winlink operator need to know if they're working and deployed to an emergency or a disaster situation. And we go through that, and then we merge that into the various forms. And this is a short list, and if you have ideas on more ideas, let us know, because I'm always looking for new exercises. Because we have to do about 45 a year, which is a little daunting, but we've been doing pretty good. And one of the general exercises we do some kind of scenario and wrap it around the ICS 213, and maybe some other parameters like how accurate can you be in sending this message, and then grade that. We've used the National Weather Service weather reports and the Winlink weather excuse me, the Winlink weather report forms to be able to have the participants report weather conditions. Another one that we've done is where we give the participants a photo, or they provide one, and they learn how to crop it down and be able to send it over VHF and UHF and mesh style Winlink connections. We kind of really discourage photos on HF for obvious reasons. We've also helped the participants learn, how to report what you felt in an earthquake using the USGS's "Did you feel it?" form, or is that a norm, Wayne? But we participated.
It's a type of form called an arm. You know what that is.
Right, and we participated in the Great American Shakeout, and the participants actually got a certificate emailed to them from the USGS. And we got a thank you letter from them, and they loved the article that others didn't. We have medical people that potentially are associated with hospitals and might be doing emergency communications. So we looked at the hospital bed report and had the participants look up availability in their local hospital and the people that had an association actually could go out and talk to the people at the hospital that they knew, and then they use that form to report it. We've also done quiz questions using the the amateur license exam pools and putting a single question for them to answer with a single letter. That's all you're supposed to do is put a single letter in the comments field in the Winlink check-in form. And what we were trying to teach them, and it took a while, was that when the instructions say, answer the question by putting a single letter in the comments form, that meant one character. We had multiple variations of between use the complete contents that you can put into the check-in form and explaining why that would be the right answer versus alternate punctuations. And it took 3 or 4 of those exercises to get to the to where they were doing what the instructions actually told them to do. But we are now, we'll use the hand pull again, but we're also going to be looking at the Winlink Book of Knowledge and some of the ICS type class questions of similar to the ones in ICS 100. Okay, there was a new form released this year, which was really nice. We did an exercise around the field situation report where people reported, in a simulated exercises, the simulated conditions that would be in their local communities, and which may be a potential skill that you need in a response to an emergency. And again, the 4 times a year now, and maybe 6 or more than that, even the PDP, sending messages between a station that's the central station and having people send messages to it. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. And also, if you're entering data into a Winlink message form, sometimes you don't have all the data and you got all that data sitting there in the web browser and you don't want to lose it. One of the things that we taught them is how to save the data so we can reload it in case you need to start the form over. And an advanced one that took 2 weeks to conduct, but it was to how to build your own Winlink message template. And this one was really advanced, and it made us think a little bit about, how do we do hard exercises, because some of the people on this one struggled, and we did have a lower turnout, but the people that were able to get through it, gained an advanced skill. And we're going to put, at the end of every quarter, you have a month with 5 Thursdays. So starting for the next 5th Thursday, we are going to have a Winlink 5th Thursday challenge where it is really a harder exercise, and we won't do an acute grading. Right now, we are collecting how many exercises they participated in and their overall score. So we're not going to put the 5th Thursday challenges into the overall grading, but they're there to really stretch people. And Wayne, next slide.
Okay.
And I believe it becomes your turn at this point.
Okay, so let's talk about the drills. The very first one was you've been hacked. And we said, okay, let's imagine a power grid failure. And this is the one, this was the first one. So we made any number of mistakes, and I'll own at least half of those myself. The drill was way too complex. We had a part A and a part B, and I don't want to, go into that because we learned those lessons and we moved on. But so we made it a lot simpler. and going forward. Yet the participants, 1,000 of them or plus, some odd, responded very well despite shortcomings in the planning on my part, and we're able to send an ARC 6409 form. So it turned out okay, and we learned some important lessons that we incorporated into the fall 2020 drill. This drill was much narrower in scope to provide a better learning opportunity, and accuracy was improved. That's an important thing. Accuracy, as well as just, can you send the form? Do you have the right numbers on it or the right information? And more participants were able to do that successfully. We did have, on this particular drill, I think this might have been my idea, I don't know. I said, well, if you're in a real shelter situation, you're not going to have something neatly typed that was handed to you to be transmitted. You're going to have something scribbled on a piece of paper. So we had somebody with average handwriting write out what the forms were supposed to be, and some people had. That was challenging for some folks, but okay, we tried it, and there you go. The following spring, we had a project called Operation Unify, and in this drill, we sent more than one form, and that was very successful. And we've improved the frequently asked questions section going forward for future drills. And then, as Bruce talked about earlier, we started adding in the use of GPS coordinates just to bring a new dimension to the drill and also help with our mapping. And then, Bruce, I believe that you're going to speak to the fall drill. Is that right?
Right, and also one other thing about the May 2021 spring drill is that we had enough Winlink Thursdays, and we've in Operation Unify we found some other problems, not major, but we decided that at that point that an exercise scenario or form has to go through a Winlink Thursday first to make sure that that we haven't missed something, or and to be able to eliminate a new opportunity for us to screw up, and we still do, but starting in the spring drill, Winlink Thursdays become our test bed for the national drills along with the training.
Well said.
And in fall 2021, Operation Cyber went, and we raised a challenge of how to pull the drill off, because what we ended up doing in this one is that we actually had to collect the call signs of everybody that wanted to participate. And then we sent them an ICS 213 form, and then they had to respond to that form. And it really raised the complexity on our end, because we had to make sure that we got the form sent to everyone that wanted to participate. And on top of that new item, it was the first drill that we decided to incorporate peer-to-peer messaging, and found it was successful. It was the trial balloon for P2P exercises, and we were able to show that we could pull it off. And out of it, we learned that the Winlink Thursday exercises were helping. And then, we can go back to the new slide now.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, because somehow the H gets turned to the S sometimes. So spring, and I don't want you to think about that. Spring 2022 Operation Ashfall, using the situation report form, which was just released a few weeks before the drill. And this was the first drill that we began grading the performance of the participants. And it provided us metrics on how well the participants were doing and how well their performance was reflecting what we were doing in training, and also what we needed to do in the future to improve.
Mhm.
And, you know, and that really helped us. And the P2P target station concept was refined and higher results, and mainly more practice, more people doing it, which is a good thing, because for some reason, if you practice stuff, you get better at it. I just don't know, but it seems that way.
Who knew?
And we're now trying to come up with the scenario for fall 2022. And if you have any ideas, let us know. And
Right.
Wayne, next slide, and I think goes back to you.
So yeah, so just to speak to a little bit about the P2P, this was, you can see a pretty impressive bunch of blue dots on there. Those are replying stations, and then the red dots, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but you can see the little red, and then some of them are hidden because there's so many blue dots over them, but those were the target stations. So that went real well and reached down to Puerto Rico and up into Canada and down to Mexico and a few others. So that went, whoops, sorry, didn't mean to advance that quite that soon. I'm trying to move. Got everybody's picture covering up part of my language. There we go. So Operation Ashfall included 19 target stations and 215 field stations. A record number of P2P messages were passed during this drill. And some people did as many as 13 messages. And I wanted to put in a plug right here that we are interested in recruiting additional operators that have P2P skills to be target stations going forward. So please reach out to Bruce or myself or Lynn, Whiskey Zero Lima Echo November, who's on the call right now. Lynn Norstadt, he's really our P2P guru. So we're looking for some additional target stations there. Things are still going terrific. This was last Thursday's Winlink Thursday. We had 650 some odd participants. You can see the map right there, and that's not even the full map because we also had some Europeans, we had some folks from Australia, and Bruce, were there any others that aren't showing up on my little map?
No, that's mainly there were 5 in Europe and 3 in Australia last week.
Okay, so we're reaching out even farther. So nobody from outer space yet, but we're waiting for that to come too. So where do we go from here? Well, our group, the EmComm training group, ETO, has 2 overarching goals, which we've already talked about several times, but we're drilling it into you right now. You know, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And so what we're saying here is that we want to attract and train a large number of radio amateurs to accurately, and the emphasis is on accurately, use Winlink, and to incrementally raise the bar to higher levels of proficiency so that all the people that are on tricycles today will be on bicycles tomorrow and motorcycles after that in terms of using Winlink. And just to kind of summarize, and just let's see, how long has it been? It's been under 3 years, 2.5 years, starting with just a handful of people. We've grown to 2,600 participants. We've had 5 nationwide drills. It's probably the largest number of participants in a national drill we've ever heard of. I've been told that by others. And we've got a 6th one coming up, not in a few weeks, but in a few months in November. And so we're looking for more ideas. We're looking for more people. We're looking for more P2P stations. And I think that's our last slide.
For further information on the EmComm training organization, check our website at emcom-training.org.